Hey, what's up, cats and kittens? And shout out to all my cerebral lights. It is me, the Cerebral Diva, and she is back with another episode of Reality, and that's TEA because I give it to you scalding hot. So grab your cups, grab your saucers, gather round, and let's all partake in this libation of invite-only Cabo tea. But before you go another further, do yourself a favor, and while you're at it, do me a solid. Take a second to hit that subscribe button, and once you've done that, take another second to hit that tiny little bell so you can turn on your alerts, and that way you will be kept in the loop. All right, so here we go. Invite only Cabo. So last week we left off with Larry bringing this mystery guest back into the house, and they were sort of baiting us. You know, we didn't know if it was going to be a guy, we didn't know if it was going to be a girl. And I'll be honest, when the person got out of the limousine, I thought it was a combination of both, if I'm being completely frank. So not only did he bring someone into the house that the people in the house were familiar with, he brought someone into the house that some of us are familiar with, and that's AJ Johnson from the movie House Party. The last time I'd seen AJ Johnson was on OWN when she was sort of doing life coaching for Lindsay Lohan on her docu-series, what have you. So I'm going to call her Hurricane AJ, excuse me, because the way she came into the house was so destructive. And for her to be a quote-unquote life coach, I think that this little appearance on the show was really damaging to her brand overall, because after seeing her on the show, I certainly wouldn't want her to coach my life, because it's like she doesn't practice what she preaches. Because seeing the way that she interacted with Emily, and I'll say this before I go back, I'm going to try to go back to that, but I've really developed this affinity for Emily on this show. And part of the reason why I feel like I have this sort of love for Emily is because I feel like Emily is the only woman in the house who keeps it 100. She's flawed, she's imperfect, you know, she's unapologetically herself, and sometimes unfortunately being herself can rub some people the wrong way. But I think out of all the women on the show, Emily is the only one who's being herself, and I think that she's great for reality television. So anyhow, AJ comes into the house and having absolutely no idea what happened. And first of all, before I talk about AJ coming into the house, listen, I'm not into body shaming anyone. That's not my thing. I really try to refrain from you know, sort of creating these negative this negative phrasing when talking about a woman's body. But when I looked at AJ, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I'm telling you, the song by Ashford and Simpson, "Solid as a Rock," that song kept playing over in my head. I'm just like, this lady is. She has proved positive that you can. Too much of a good thing. Too much working out is not good for you. Just like too little working out. I'm a person who, believe it or not, I go to the gym pretty much 7 days a week. And after seeing her on this show, I promise you, I'm cutting back to at least 5 days a week, because I never want to get to the point where, I don't know, and maybe that appeals to some people. Maybe there are some guys who are into that, but she's so defined to the point to me that she's erased her femininity. And you know, I know some people may be critical of me for saying that, but that's just the way that's how my eyes saw it. You know, she could definitely benefit from a few extra calories, from some fat, just to soften it. I mean, everything from her face. I almost think that being so defined is actually aging her. You know, it's causing her face to look deflated. So yeah, so, and I don't want to go too hard on what she looked like and start body shaming and that thing. I'm just gonna say that for me, visually or aesthetically, it just was not appealing, you know. And when she got out of the limousine, they kept baiting us, you know, is it a guy, is it a girl? I didn't know. I honestly thought when she stepped out of the limousine that she was either trans, someone very early in their transition, or she was a drag queen. I'm thinking, oh, Larry's gonna really turn the function. He's going there on the show. And so when they finally panned up and you see her face, I'm like, oh my God, that's AJ. So anyhow, back to AJ and Emily. So AJ comes in and she's receiving secondhand information about what transpired between Emily and Agu. And then she just starts going in and basically sort of slut shaming Emily. And no one was coming to Emily's defense. The only person who spoke up, and this is what's making me fall in love with him as well, is Malaku. Malaku just seems like a really stand-up guy. AJ is going off about how Agu deserves better, as if, you know, he wasn't complicit in what happened between him and Emily. I don't know how, for whatever reason, Emily gets slut shamed, but Agu sort of gets put on the pedestal for essentially partaking. And, you know, if memory serves me correctly, I don't recall Emily ever having a gun and forcing Agu to do anything that against his own will. Not only that, Agu was more lucid in that moment than Emily was. So if anyone should bear any measure of accountability, to me the onus would be on Agu and not necessarily Emily, because she was white girl wasted that evening. So AJ's coming in and she's tossing in her 2 cents. You know, he deserves better. He deserves better. You know, and then, you know, Emily starts to challenge her on that, and then she starts sort of backpedaling and making it seem, and this is, I hate when people do stuff like this, where you know exactly what they mean, you know exactly how they're framing or phrasing their whatever they're trying to communicate, and then when you start to call them on it, then they pretend like, oh, that's not what I was trying to convey. Yes, you were trying to say that she's not worthy of being with someone like Agu, and she called you on it, and then suddenly you start changing it, saying, oh no, I'm talking about he deserves better for his own life. This has nothing to do with you. It has absolutely everything to do with me. And so finally, when Malaku speaks up and, you know, he sort of diffuses the situation, everyone goes out. And keep in mind, AJ she was only there for 24 hours, but she wreaked havoc on this house in 24 hours. So she comes in and then she leaves the following day, and everyone breathes a sigh of relief. And so pretty much from that point on, the episode is about Emily's birthday. And so everyone gets together. They decide to go bungee jumping for Emily's birthday. I'm trying to think of if I'm missing anything that happened in between that, but I don't think anything of significance. And you guys don't need all the gory details. If you want to, you can watch it. So I'm just going to give you a synopsis of things that stood out, sort of bullet points that were standout moments for me in this particular episode. So they all go bungee jumping. Of course, Kamani sits out because she's still injured from the ATV accident. And okay, this is one thing I do want to talk about. So there is a scene where they're all in the pool, and Agu, who is very proud of his penis, decides that he's going to flash pretty much everyone in the pool. And Kamani gets up and she's sort of offended by it. But I think, I said this before, I think Kamani has perfect girl syndrome, where she's waiting for this ideal situation, this ideal guy. She wants the guy to only have eyes for her, and she wants to be the most beautiful woman in the world in that guy's eyes. And I think she has a very idealized view of what love is. And so she keeps trying to push that off on Agu. And I think ultimately what's going to happen, and it looks based on the previews for the coming week, and I saw this coming, I think that she's going to wind up pushing him away, because her standards are too high. They're too high for most guys to reach, and too high. And first of all, frankly, most guys don't even want to try to reach that high, because you haven't reached that level of importance in their life. So she keeps trying to be sort of this prima donna, that, you know, this, I don't know, I mean, it's just, look, to me, if anyone is the prize in this relationship, and shout out to all my single mothers, I'm not judging here, I'm just simply saying that Kamani comes with baggage. She comes with a child and a quote-unquote baby daddy or a baby father. Agu has no kids. He doesn't have a marriage under his belt. He doesn't have baby mama drama to contend with. So to me, I mean, if you're going to talk about who's necessarily the prize in that equation, I think Agu is probably going to be the one making the greatest compromise, or the most concessions in that particular relationship. So I think she needs to come down off her high horse just a little bit and understand that, you know, look, you're not as perfect as you may perceive yourself to be. So that, and I'm going to digress, and we're going to talk more about the bungee jumping. So they get back to the bungee jumping scene. Everyone bungee jumps, and to Emily's surprise, Larry has invited her boyfriend there. And now that creates all sort of attention, because there's already this energy in the house with what potentially, like, I don't know if Agu and Emily actually quote unquote hooked up, and that was one thing too. Let me go back to the scene with AJ and her confronting Emily about quote unquote performing oral sex on Agu. If it didn't happen, I think that Agu should speak up in that moment and say, look, you guys, that didn't happen. Because AJ asked Emily flat out, did you give him a head? Basically, it's essentially what she asked. And, she said no. And so if that is in fact true, when AJ is going in on Emily, I think a goose should be a gentleman and step up and say, look, nothing physical happened between us that particular night, unless in fact something did. So, okay, I know I'm jumping all over the point, you got all over the place, you guys. So please bear with me. So back to the day, everyone bungee jumps, and after they bungee jump, they head back to the house. And then Emily's boyfriend, who Larry has flown in, is waiting for her with flowers. And you can sort of feel the tension. And if you look at Agu's face, he looks really uncomfortable. And so that's pretty much where the episode left off. They go out to dinner or to a nightclub, which they pretty much do every episode. So there's nothing new there. And Emily's boyfriend invites Agu out onto the patio for a smoke, and that's where the episode left off. So we'll see what happens next week. So I really try not to drag these reviews out too long, just because, look, if you have as little time as I have, you don't want to hear a 30 or 40-minute review, so I'm not going to do that to you guys. So I hope this review was informative enough for you. If you haven't been watching Invite Only Cabo, I definitely think that you should. I've been giving it a hard time for the first 2 or 3 episodes, but it's definitely picking up, and I'm definitely feeling more invested in it. So kudos to Bravo for Invite Only Cabo. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Now, with all of that being said, remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. As always, remember to follow me across all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter. Remember, it's better to be pissed off than pissed on. And also, to live better, love harder, and think smarter. It's me, the Cerebral Diva, and I will talk to you guys again soon. Have a fantastic day.